Today I'm going to be comparing the ThermalMaster P1, a brand new unit that ThermalMaster have just released, against the well-known FLIR One Pro. And ThermalMaster have provided me a sample of the P1 and also the FLIR One Pro for two previous videos. But yeah, I thought of comparing these two since the resolution of them is the same, and I made another video actually comparing that, I think, to the P3, and it got quite a few views. So I think this is more of a fair comparison given that the resolution is identical on both models, the thermal resolution anyway. And yeah, but there are some really surprising differences between both of them, so let's see which one is better value for money. So depending on where you live, the FLIR One Pro costs about 3 to 4 times more than the ThermalMaster P1, at least in Australia and the US, and it's a huge price difference, especially if you're someone who's on a budget. And both of these connect to your smartphone via USB-C, and it turns it into a thermal camera, so they're not standalone units. And let's have a quick little look at the overall construction of each one. So that's the P1, and it is made out of plastic. I thought it actually had some rubber bumpers on the side. That's something I wish ThermalMaster had added on. It does keep it extremely light though, compared to the FLIR. It feels like half the weight. And that's the USB-C port up the top there. It feels fairly firm, just wiggling that around. It doesn't have any wiggle to it. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is a plastic case, but it does feel reasonably durable. And you've also got this recessed lens in there, thankfully. So yeah, if you do lay it down this way, it's not going to scratch the lens, which is the most important part of this camera. And this here is the FLIR One Pro, and you can see the overall construction, in my opinion, is superior. I mean, the quality of the construction, I don't know, just the workmanship around it. You've got these like rubber bumpers along the side. You've also got this thing here that, yeah, basically you can rotate this and retract this sheath there. So because I use a fairly chunky case, I end up just using this extender on my phone. So I'll plug that into the device and then into my phone. You've got this aluminium case, anodized aluminium case. There's rubber bumpers here on the side, so it feels pretty durable. You also have a couple of cameras. So that's a normal camera that FLIR use. I'll explain why later on. And that is the thermal camera below. They're also slightly recessed in there. On the bottom, you've got a charging port because there is a battery in there that needs to be charged for it to work, and also an on and off switch there on the side too. In terms of accessories, both of these come with cases here. So they just sort of formed around the actual device itself. They're pretty similar in terms of quality, but the P1 does have, I think, a slightly more durable case. It's made out of, I don't know what it is, but definitely woven synthetic fiber. And you've also got this bit that comes off the end there. And you do also get with both of these a cable. So basically that's a 50 centimeter cable that you get with the P1, ThermalMaster P1. So I guess the idea is that you connect it to your phone, and if you need to bring the camera into somewhere, like a smaller confined space or something like that, you don't have to take your whole phone in there, which is a good thing. Alrighty, so let's compare the specifications for both of these cameras. So like I mentioned before, both of them have 160 by 120 native sensors, and the P1 actually enhances the output, so it upscales it to 320 by 240. You can enable and disable that feature on the application. I'll just show you how that works later on. And yeah, basically it's just a software that gives it smoother gradients, a sharper picture quality, and I think it works a lot better up close rather than further away. FLIR uses something that they call MSX Fusion. So basically it adds a visible edge detail, so it has some kind of edge detection algorithm, so objects like doors, windows, breaker boxes, those kind of things look more defined, even at low thermal resolution. So yeah, I guess both of these are using some type of strategy, some kind of software strategy in order to compensate for the lower resolution. In terms of field of view and focal length, both of them are very similar. In terms of temperature range and accuracy, the P1 has a wider range, so it measures up to 600 degrees Celsius from negative 20 degrees Celsius. It also has tighter accuracy at plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius, and the sensor is rated at 40 millikelvin less than or equal to 40 millikelvin, which means that it is more able to detect small changes and variations in temperature, so you're going to get better contrast in the video, which yeah, it's going to be more apparent when you watch the demonstration at the end. The FLIR One Pro maxes out at 400 degrees Celsius, and it has a lower accuracy as well, plus or minus 3 degrees Celsius accuracy. So yeah, look, it's great for inspections, but probably less suited for higher heat work if you need to measure up to 600 degrees Celsius. And it also comes with a less sensitive sensor, so less than or equal to 70 millikelvin. So yeah, you're basically just going to have less contrast in the image. So in terms of frame rate and responsiveness, the ThermalMaster P1 has a 25 Hertz refresh rate, which is very smooth and responsive. The FLIR is capped at 8.7 Hertz. So yeah, when you're panning around, it feels choppier, especially when you compare both of these side by side. And I find the frame rate really important if you're going to be potentially using these cameras to navigate in the dark. And, you know, 8 frames a second is just really feels pretty choppy. In terms of the app and software, the P1 uses the TempMaster app, and it supports various features like points, line, area measurements, different isotherm modes. And yeah, the FLIR app has a really nice interface as well, easy capture and sharing, does have the integrated MSX overlays, which I'll show you later. But yeah, there are actually fewer pro measurement tools compared to the P1 because you can't set things like custom emissivity. You can't go through and change the ambient room temperature, measurement distance, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think the P1 just really allows you to maximize on the overall accuracy of those measurements, and plus the app just has way more features. So I'll demo that in a moment. In terms of power and usability, this one is really important. So the P1 draws power directly from your phone, so there's no charging needed, and it draws, I believe, 0.39 watts. So yeah, you should hopefully get about 8+ hours of battery life. And did a quick little estimate. I think that's based on a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, given that, you know, you're going to be having the screen on maybe at least 60% brightness, other things running in the background, like maybe you're checking messages and stuff like that. The FLIR One Pro, on the other hand, has a built-in battery, so it's not going to drain your phone, but you do need to keep this thing charged. So if you don't keep it charged, it basically will not run, and you get about 1 hour of battery life per charge. So it's a lot shorter than the 8+ hours that you get on the P1. Alrighty, so I want to do a little comparison of the applications for both of these thermal cameras. So with the FLIR One Pro here to the left, you can see, you know, I've got the MSX overlays activated, and yeah, basically you press this plus button on the bottom right and you can select from just normal infrared like that, MSX, which is like the overlays, so it kind of creates these lines, edge detection, I suppose, and then DC, which is just like normal camera mode. I don't know why you'd have that on there, but yeah, you can select that anyhow, and you can change the color as well. So at the moment it's on iron red, you've got gray, rainbow, contrast, what's this, Arctic lava, wheel, coldest. So I guess it picks up the coldest parts in the scene, and you've got the hottest parts of the scene. It's like yeah, I guess like an iron red, and the opposite of whatever an iron red would be, which is pretty cool. I tend to leave it on the iron mode. And yeah, there's also a quality mode here as well. I just leave it to the highest quality, but you can put on some kind of economy mode here, and it just creates all these weird artifacts in there. So I tend to just leave it on the higher quality mode. temperature range, you can change it here as well. So -20 to 120 degrees Celsius or 0 to 400 degrees Celsius. So yeah, I tend to leave it on that first one, but if you are measuring high temperature objects, make sure you do change that in the software. And up the top here, you've got this kind of cross here. So if you hit that, basically you can enable the hot and cold spot on the scene. So yeah, it's, as you can see, this sort of red dot goes around and measures the hottest part of the scene. So that's at the moment my face, and then you've got the background, which is 20.4 degrees Celsius. And you can also add like individual spots. So if I go like spot 1, spot 2, spot 3, for instance, here you can actually move these custom spots around to measure different objects identified on the screen, or that you want to identify on the screen. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They don't have any other bits and pieces in here. That is, I think, like a scale. Let me just get out of this for a moment. Like a scale mode. So yeah, that just introduces this bar here on the right hand side, so showing you the lowest and the highest temperatures that are recorded here on the screen. And this is like an ongoing thing, so it doesn't hold the highest in there, just whatever it sees currently on the screen. That button to the right is like a calibration button. So sometimes you'll notice when you're focusing on you know, basically two different temperature objects that's very widely from one area to the other, the camera will click and calibrate itself. So I've never had to press that button manually, but you can if you want to. And let's have a look what else. You do have the ability to take an image as well, a photograph, and video. So just through this button here, you can view through the gallery here previous photos and stuff like that, and videos that you've taken. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Unfortunately, there's no like zoom feature in here. It would have been nice to have some kind of digital zoom. I tend to operate this thing with just the IR mode activated. I don't find the MSX that useful for my purposes. But yeah, there's a few other settings here. So if you go to settings, you can go into the emissivity, and there are a few options you can select. So there's matte, semi-matte, semi-glossy, and glossy. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to add in a custom emissivity, which I think is really important, because yeah, basically there's various different emissivity values for different things you're measuring. So copper, brass, for instance, that's going to have quite a low emissivity, I believe. So yeah, I find that a bit annoying. I think that might be something FLIR will implement in the future. It could be like a software related thing. And temperature range, that's pretty much it as well. Like you can't set, you can't set the ambient temperature and the measurement distance as well. So yeah, that's basically it for the FLIR app. All right, so my other phone just conked out, so I've just attached the ThermoMaster P1 here to my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. And yeah, basically you've got these little icons here on the top. That's the calibration button, similar to the FLIR One Pro. This button here is cool. It's the X3 button. So that is the upscaling button. So it's off now, on now. It's probably easier if I actually zoom into things so you can see a bit how it works. So that's with the X3 off, and now that's with it on. So you can see it sort of has this edge detection algorithm, smooths things out, and actually works quite well, especially for, like I said, for stuff that's closer range. And of course, here's another feature, the pinch to zoom, the 15 times digital zoom that you don't get with the FLIR One Pro. And you can select the temperature range as well up the top here, -20 degrees Celsius to 150 degrees Celsius, and 150 degrees Celsius to 450 degrees Celsius. And I wonder why that doesn't state 600 degrees Celsius, since it's the camera is rated to 600. And there is also this button here at the bottom left-hand corner. So it's like temperature measurement function. So you can add points, so 3 different points. You can also add lines, so 3 different lines where it measures the highest and lowest temperature among on this line. So yeah, this might be useful for you if you maybe measure a particular object that's like a flashlight or something like that. And there's rectangles as well, so 3, you can put 3 rectangles, measure what's in there, 3 circles, and as you can see here, it's getting a bit ridiculous. We've got too much going on. You're never going to be using all those at the same time, so I'll just delete them off. This is the one I tend to use, just this temp all setting. So you can see the highest temperature there, as denoted by this red dot, is 36.2 degrees Celsius, and the lowest temperature is 19.2 degrees Celsius. In the center, you've got this crosshair, so that will measure the temperature of whatever you place that crosshair over, like that. And yeah, I find that works quite well. I don't use this one very much. I don't know what this stand color is. I guess that's for this, yeah, maybe just the fonts and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what it is. Just change the font color. Yeah, don't really use that. And here is the color palette options. So you've got white hot here. You've got black hot. I tend to use white hot, black hot, and iron red, as well as the night vision mode. Everything else I don't really use. Iron red just displays I guess a wider range of values, so you can see between the lowest temperatures to the highest temperatures, whereas the black hot mode really just emphasizes the hottest parts of the scene. And white hot, similar sort of thing, except it's in white. And red hots, that emphasizes the hottest areas on the scene. Rainbow, jungle, these are the ones I don't use because I just don't know what they're really used for. I find them a bit yeah, I just don't like the look of them. There's a low light one, so that's good if you're using it at night. Don't want that light to reflect off your face or for you to lose your night vision. You can, of course, just lower the brightness on your phone. There's gold, lava, and medical. So yeah, medical is probably something that some of you might use. I'm just not sure exactly how it's used. But yeah, there's also this option here, so you can go in and take a photo or a video, save those, and you can also enable the camera, which is currently pointed at my desk, so the normal phone camera. So if you take a video, you can actually have that in the corner as I guess a guide for you to know what you're actually looking at. And what else do we have here? You can change the opacity of that as well. There's this settings to the right hand side, so you can adjust the brightness, which is pretty cool. You don't usually get that option on many other thermal camera apps. There's a contrast, so you can again change the contrast like that. And I don't like this color palette. I'm going to change it back to iron red. And there's like a scale. I don't use that. Mirror mode, mirror the image. There's also, you can rotate the image if you want. Again, I just leave it on the default. And if we go back in the app, this is where it's really cool. You can obviously access the gallery of all the photos and videos you've taken. You can also go into a few different things here. So image setting, there's a few options. Automatic shutter, which I leave on so that it calibrates to each scene automatically. And what else do you have here? Watermark, I've turned that off. I've already gone into that. Temperature setting. So this here is pretty important. So I turn on the burn protection so that when you maybe accidentally point it at a very high temperature object, it just disables the camera. It's also temperature unit you can change to Fahrenheit as well. There is temperature alarm in there, so you can set it. Maybe you're waiting for an object to reach a certain temperature before you shut it down or something. In my case, maybe it could be a light that's getting up to 60 to 80 degrees Celsius where it becomes kind of dangerous, or you're measuring a battery, something like that. So yeah, you can have that alarm ring out. And of course the variable temperature correction. So yeah, this is something that you don't get with FLIR, and I think it's just so important. So you can set a custom emissivity value in here. So from 0.01 to 1, you set multiple custom modes, and these two variables here also influence the accuracy of the measurement, so the ambient room temperature as well as the measurement distance. So yeah, I actually use GPT to come up to help me find out the emissivity values of various objects, because it only lists a few here. But yeah, I think this is really important and provides you with better, more accurate readings. So I want to talk about the pros and cons of both of these thermal cameras. So let's start with the P1, and the pros are basically, or the first one is the lower cost. So the P1 is about a third to a quarter of the price of the FLIR One Pro. That's pretty significant if you're on a budget, and especially when the specifications are quite similar. The second Pro is the wider temperature range, so you can measure up to 600 degrees Celsius compared to 400 degrees Celsius with the FLIR One Pro. You've also got this upscaled thermal resolution of 320 by 240, improves picture quality. Not, it's not like a huge game changer, but I think it does definitely clean up the image, especially when you're looking at stuff that's closer by. And of course, you get the better accuracy, like I mentioned before. I mean, it's the plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius rating, but also being able to go into the app and change emissivity to custom levels. Another big pro is the 25 hertz frame rate. It's just so smooth. Just wait till you see the demos at the end compared to 8.7 frames or hertz on the FLIR One Pro. You also get more palettes and pro measurement tools in the app for the P1 compared to the FLIR One Pro, and there's no separate charging needed. This thing will just run directly off your phone. In terms of cons, you don't get that MSX Edge fusion that you get with the FLIR One Pro. So yeah, I think thermal images can just look less defined without any of those lines on there. It can be sometimes difficult to figure out what you're looking at. The second con is, the thing fully depends on phone for power. And I did say that was a pro as well. But would it be nice if there was a backup battery in there as well that you could charge, but it just doesn't rely on the backup battery. But I'm sure they've excluded that just for cost reasons. And finally, I think the build quality is decent, but it's nothing special. I mean, I would have preferred if the case was made of metal, but the plastic shell feels rugged enough to withstand some shock. And I do like that the lens is nicely recessed in there to protect it from scratches, dust. So let's talk about the FLIR One Pro Pros. And the first one is this MSX Fusion setting that I demoed before. It makes images easier to interpret visually, and it's really well established brand as well. FLIR's been around for ages, and the quality of their devices are pretty amazing, as you can see. The build quality especially. And of course, you've got this built-in battery, and that avoids you from draining your phone battery. But in terms of the cons, you're going to be paying a lot more for this device, three to four times more. And really at that price, if you're paying 3 to 4 times more, you might as well just get a very high resolution thermal camera from Thermal Master. They do a few other models. The second con is the lower temperature range and accuracy, so it measures up to 400 degrees Celsius, and the margin of error is a little higher as well than the Thermal Master P1. Plus, you're not able to actually go into the app and change the emissivity values to custom levels, which is quite annoying. The third con I can think of as well is the lower frame rate. So again, 8.7 frames. It does make a huge difference if you're navigating with this thing. It's very noticeable. And finally, the FLIR One Pro will not operate without the battery holding a charge. So you need to charge this thing separately. The battery only lasts for an hour. You need to charge it again. And there's also the issue that if the battery fails or at some point starts to wear out, it's not going to be able to actually draw power from your phone, which I find that quite bizarre for a device of this price. It should be able to do something like that in an emergency. So overall, if you need that MSX overlay function and you don't mind the higher price tag, the FLIR One Pro is still a solid choice. Though, I think at the end of the day, if you're spending this much, you might as well get an upgraded P3. Thermal Master P3 just outperforms it in pretty much every way. But if you care about high accuracy, just better specifications, a wider temperature measurement range, smoother refresh rate, and just a much lower cost, the Thermal Master P1 is hands down better value for for repair, HVAC, electrical inspections, whatever you're going to use it for. And I think the ThermalMaster P1 makes thermal imaging accessible to almost everyone, and in many ways, like I said, outperforms the FLIR One Pro. So yeah, even if price wasn't a barrier, I'd probably still get the P1 just due to the higher specifications. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments, and if you have questions as well, drop them below in the comments. I'll get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button, share it with a friend who might be interested. This helps me to get my channel out to more people. And if you want to see more thermal camera and night vision reviews, make sure you subscribe. Okay, guys, so here's a little side-by-side. I've got the FLIR One Pro to the left, and on the right, I've got the ThermalMaster P1. And even at the native resolution, both of these are pretty much the same native resolution. I still think the P1 looks a little sharper, and it does get a teeny bit closer. Okay, maybe a little bit. Let me have a look. Slightly closer, or perhaps it's just the fact that I do have the P1 sitting a little bit further forward, maybe another 8 centimeters or so forward on my rig that I'm holding up. But for the most part, yeah, similar field of view, similar focal length, as you can see here. Now, one thing you can already tell is the refresh rate is just absolutely nailing it on the P1. So you got 8 point something hertz on the FLIR One Pro, and on the P1 you've got 25 hertz. So buttery smooth in comparison. And you know, even when you're looking at objects as well, because of the 40 millikelvin value that you get with the, or less than or equal to 40 millikelvin on the P1, you get much stronger contrasts. If you look underneath the table there, you can see more details in that box, okay, because it's more sensitive to subtle changes in temperature. Okay. So I'm kind of looking here at the wall, a few bits and pieces on the wall, and it's just showing up as kind of, you know, the same temperature really on the FLIR One Pro, with a couple of things. That's like a stand that I have here and a microphone. But you can see all the details a little bit clearer on the P1 compared to the FLIR One Pro. Okay, just because of that lower millikelvin value. When you get closer, you might be able to make out some more details on each, but yeah, here's a phone on the desk. And the cool thing about these cameras is that you can also see footprints. You can see where people have been walking, animals, if you're into animal spotting, droppings and stuff like that as well. But yeah, again, you can see like it is able to just tell the differences a lot better and make out contrast much better on the P1 just due to that high millikelvin value. Whereas even here you can see that on my pants, and it's like hotter around there because there's a bit of slack there. Okay, and here's my hand. Let's have a look how it appears. Yeah, you can just see much more details with the P1. Like, you can even just look at my jumper and it's able to pick up like where the heat escapes. And there's an X3 function that I've just enabled. So this is the upscaling mode. Upscales it now to 320 by 240, and everything just looks like much more clearer on the P1. Some kind of AI upscaling. And I do find it looks better up close, this upscaling feature. Now I have some bits and pieces here on the table. I've got a flashlight, which I'll turn on here, and I've also got a LEP module with some with the circuit board exposed. So I'm going to compare both of these cameras. Let's just see how they perform kind of up close and personal. You know, if you're working on electronics and circuit boards and little DIY related stuff, this is going to be really important for you. Okay, so that is the FLIR. And the one thing you can do with the FLIR is that you can activate this MSX mode there. So that, or the DC, which is basically just the camera, the normal camera on, which I don't really see a point in that alone anyway. So yeah, you can see how it combines the camera with the secondary camera and the thermal with the FLIR, sort of add details on. But with the Thermal Master, what they're doing is that they are using this upscaling technology to increase the clarity of the image. Plus, it's just a better sensor overall. It's a 40 millikelvin sensor. Just gonna allow you to discern between very small temperature differences better. Okay, so anyway, I think this thing is starting to warm up. You can see this flashlight's like hotter on the head. Both these cameras are picking them up okay. Right. And this is the module that I have here on the table. And the heat sink underneath there. Let's grab the FLIR. To make this fair, I'm just going to turn off the MSX on the FLIR. I don't really like it anyway. Maybe like from mid-range or something like that, it helps to discern what you're looking at. But up close, I find that it just gets in the way. Okay, so this is the little circuit board here on the table. So I bring this closer up to the FLIR. And you know, you get reasonable detail up close. As you can see, you can make out individual components, what's hot there. Just bring it up really close to see if I can, that's like the limit really. Okay, something like that until it starts losing some detail. And let's have a look on the P1, Thermal Master P1. This is with the not the MSX, the X3 turned on. So if I turn off the X3, you can see here as well, it picks up all those individual components and even a bit more detail I find just with the sort of little copper wire and things in the board. You can actually make that out, but you can't see that on the FLIR One Pro. So it kind of looks all the same color on the board. And let's check it out again here. You can see just these little lines and bits and pieces running underneath the board. And just turn on the X3 upscaling again, and it makes that out a bit better, as you can see. Okay, it does have these weird artifacts on the edges when you turn it. It's kind of doing something to those edges, like it almost looks like sparks or something, but it's not. This circuit board's getting pretty hot. You can see it's picking up transferring the heat onto my hand. On the side, you can have a look at these little bits and pieces as well that it picks up. And you can also kind of zoom in on or digital zoom on the the P1. Okay, so you get really close like that if you need to. It is only digital zoom though. So yeah, let's go for a little walkabout around my house. Let's turn off the X3. So even without the upscaling, the X3 upscaling, it just looks better. You can make out the details, the sharpness of everything much better than the FLIR One Pro. And also just due to the frame rate, it's just easier to use. It feels like you're actually seeing things in real time. Okay, and this is again a demonstration of the lower millikelvin value on the P1, and it can just differentiate subtle changes in temperature better than the FLIR. So that's my fridge here, and it's transmitting some heat through this wall. You can see, I thought I'd left the thing open. And side of the fridge, you can see these are the coils here on the side. Okay, and FLIR does apply some kind of algorithm as well on their camera. I'm not sure what it is, but there is some kind of smoothing, some type of image correction happening. And this is my freezer. Again, the details just look sharper on the P1. Some food. Let's go up here, circuit board, and the circuit breaker here in the corner of my circuit board here, power board, so you can see it there. So you can get pretty close up to it, and that is the FLIR One Pro. Also can get really close to things. Okay. And this is me in the mirror without the X3 turned on and the P1. You can press enable the X3, and as you can see, you sort of get a much smoother picture quality. I find this works much better closer up. Okay, so I'm looking down the street here now, and kind of a bit paranoid. I don't want to drop my phone in this rig, but it's fairly stable, and you can see the clarity that's really like night and day. The P1 is able to distinguish changes in temperature much better. You can spot individual cars down the bottom there. You can even see people walking out the back, and this is with the X3 turned off. So let's upscale it. Okay, and this is what I mean when you apply the X3 onto longer range sort of situations like this. I don't think it looks ideal. It's sort of a bit mosaic, this kind of mosaic-like effect, but it does make objects stand out maybe a bit better. But you turn it off like that, and you can see individual people. I'll zoom in here and see like individual people. They're walking on the street, these two in the middle here. This is with the digital zoom. But you can't even make that out at all with the FLIR One Pro, and there is no option for me to maybe I can go into the MSX like that. Yeah, I thought it might outline some people or something out the back there. It's kind of outlining some of the cars and things, but it's not going to be great if you don't have much light, because it's only combining those two cameras together, the normal camera and the thermal camera, to come up with the overlay image. I think a true thermal camera should be able to operate really without one of those. It's more of like helps to compensate for the lower resolution. Okay. Alright, so on the left I've got the FLIR One Pro, and on the right we have the Thermal Master P1, and I've got them kind of side by side of each other now, looking down this road, and you can see like it's really like night and day. You get much better thermal contrast with the P1 compared to the FLIR One Pro, and the overall refresh rate as well is just so much better. It's smoother. Okay, lower millikelvin value, so less than 40 millikelvins, equal to or less than 40 millikelvin value allows you to see much more contrast, pretty much everything that you're looking at. And I mean, especially comes useful when you're looking at things across, like a bunch of people, say, walking across the road, that kind of thing. You can make them out a lot better compared to the background. Otherwise, cameras with a higher millikelvin value end up kind of lumping all that detail all into one, so you get less contrast. So it kind of makes a lot easier, as you can see here, just sort of count the number of people crossing the road, that kind of thing. Even closer by, you can spot details on clothing, that sort of thing. That's like a little dog there walking across as well. And
yeah, just even in the buildings as well, which is pretty cool. And yeah, across the road you can see like the cars as well, the front part of the car, so where the engine is, you can see it's like significantly hotter. I do think that even though the resolution is the same, I do think that the P1 just has much sharper details anyway, somehow. I mean, look at that. It could just be, I don't know what it is really. It's the image algorithm that's cleaning things up. Image processing algorithm seems to be doing something that just sharpens things up a bit better. Okay, so on the left here I've got the FLIR One Pro, and on the right I've got the Thermal Master P1. And you can already see a huge difference in, firstly, the frame rate. So there's much more smoother image with the P1, and due to the lower millikelvin value of the Thermal Master P1, so basically higher thermal sensitivity, you can see much more contrast out here. So the lower millikelvin value of less than or equal to 40 with the P1, small changes, small temperature differences do show up better and with more contrast. Okay, even when you look at the ground here, you know, you can make sense and actually navigate with the P1. Now if I point it upwards, it kind of gets a bit funny, because it compares everything else on the screen. So the trees there, they're a bit hotter, so it starts to do a relative comparison and then adjust the image. So then the pathway gets a little bit lighter, but then if you actually just look down like that, you can focus that in and use that just to navigate like this, which is just so cool. Because in some parts out here it's just really dark. Well, I don't know, this is just a general park here in Melbourne, but you know, it's completely dark out the back there. I can't see anything, but I can see, however, someone is sitting on that bench, right all the way at the back. So it might be useful for some of you who want to look ahead, scout ahead, see what's out there. Both of these cameras are able to pick things up, you know, in the mid-range as well. But like with the FLIR One Pro compared to the P1, the P1, the performance is just I mean, it's like night and day, as you can see, even the clouds. It could be due to this image processing algorithm. Like the clouds actually look kind of fluffier on the FLIR One Pro. So there's some different algorithm that they're using. But yeah, in either case, this P1 is able to distinguish these small objects and things out the back. People, animals, to a better degree. So if you're using it for scouting ahead, it's good. Now I think that's a possum, so we'll get a little bit closer. And out the back there are like little mice that hide in the bushes, so I'll get closer and we'll see what happens. See if we can kind of spot them. There's a dude here looking at something, and here is the possum. It's amazing. You can see like even the heat coming up with their eyes, out of their eyes more than their ears, parts of their fur where it's, you know, maybe parted. But yeah, even at this range, I do think the image looks sharper and more detailed on the P1, and again, that's just due to the higher net lower millikelvin value of the P1 compared to the 70 millikelvin of the FLIR. 40 millikelvin is a significant difference. You can even see, you know, sharp little differences in details on the ground as well. So if you are kind of walking around that kind of thing. Dog there. Should look across the road here again. If you really focus in, you can sort of see cars moving around in the distance. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky. It's a bit tricky, but you can see them kind of cut in and out back there. A couple of people beneath that tree. Again, I can't see that without the camera. Probably better if I just, wasn't looking at a screen, obviously. But another cool thing that you can do is you can also, I have to take the phone out of the thingo for this, you can also change the color palette. So with the P1 it's on iron red at the moment. I might just pop this back into the holder but make it just hold on right to the end. There we go. So I can just flick through those modes. It's just balancing. So I've got this red hot mode, black hot, white hot mode. Okay, and with the Flur you can change the temperature range. Let me see, can you change the actual color? Yeah, you can. So there's a few color modes in here as well. Yeah, but I do find the white hot and the black hot mode a little bit better for spotting stuff and perhaps navigating as well, because it cuts out all the extraneous detail essentially. You can see a person there walking. Let's have a little walk near to this bush and see if we can find some mice down the back, which they should start popping out soon. Sometimes they hide in these little bushes as well. Yeah, it's just a much better experience and feels more natural having the higher hertz, higher refresh rate. I believe Flur have a kind of cap on the, yeah, they have a cap on the refresh rate. It's 8.7 frames per second. Oh, here we go. That's one. I think I spotted a mouse. There you go. There's three. Right. So again, that's another little difference. If I move back, see at what point it starts disappearing away. Right, they both can spot them. You can see 3 mice here. So yeah, maybe you're doing a pest inspection or something like that, checking up in someone's roof or in your roof. You're going to be able to spot vermin and do something about it. They tend to stay very still, otherwise just makes life a lot easier. But while they're inside these bushes, you can't really spot them unless part of the fur pops out. Kind of got to get them at the right angle.